All right, I'm going to call this meeting to order. The Town Commission tentative budget public hearing on September 8th, 2021 at 5:05 p.m. Let's all stand for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Town Clerk, will you please do roll call?
Mayor Mayfield?
Here.
Vice Mayor Campo?
Here.
Commissioner Fender?
Here.
Commissioner Kurzman?
Yes.
Commissioner Tompak?
Here.
All right. Thank you. I have one item before we get started with the meeting. The commissioners all received an email request from a resident to recognize the 13 United States servicemen and women who died in a suicide bombing attack in Afghanistan on August 26th. I think we can all agree that it's a good idea to recognize the risks taken and the sacrifices made by these men and women on a daily basis, and to also specifically honor those that made the ultimate sacrifice while serving their country. The town thought it'd be fitting that the names be read by a veteran, so I'm going to ask Sewells Point resident Chris Rastrelli if he would please come up to the podium and state his name and address for the record. I asked if he would give his background with the armed forces and any other information he saw fit, and then read the names of the 13 victims. After he reads the names, we will have a moment of silence in their honor. Take it away, Chris.
Thank you, Mayor, Commission. Chris Rastrelli, 5 Worth Court, retired Navy veteran, 25 years, submarines and naval special warfare technician. DOD ID 11868107898. Husband to a lovely woman, Tricia Rastrelli, of 25 years. Father to a 13-year-old Ethan, 10-year-old Kainoa. They've traveled the world with me. They have seen enough. It's a heavy heart to read these names today because I'm fortunate enough to be here after 25 years. When Miss Mayfield asked me to do this, I didn't hesitate, although it makes me upset because the names on this list are young men and women. Freedom is a fragile thing, and it is never more than one generation away from extinction. It is not ours by way of inheritance. It must be fought for and defended constantly by each generation. Lance Corporal David Espinoza, 20, Texas. Sergeant Nicole G., 23, California. Staff Sergeant Darren Hoover, 31, Utah. Corporal Hunter Lopez, 22, California. Lance Corporal Riley McCullum, 20, Wyoming. Lance Corporal Dylan Morello, 20, California. Lance Corporal Kareem Nico E., 20, California. Corporal Deegan William Tyler Page, 23, Nebraska. Sergeant Johnny Rosario, 25, Massachusetts. Corporal Humberto Sanchez, 22, Indiana. Lance Corporal Jared Schmidt, 20, Missouri. Staff Sergeant Ryan Noss, 23, Tennessee. Corpsman Max Sobiak, 22, Ohio. The 13 names, 11 of those are Marines. My little brother was a Marine, 10 years, 4 deployments in Iraq and Afghanistan. He's here. In fact, I dropped him in Fort Pierce today to run a boat up the coast. He's here. But these kids are not. Thank you for that opportunity, Ms. Mayor.
right, thank you, Chris, for not only your service, but for taking the time to come to the meeting this evening and help the town pay its respects to our men and women in uniform and what they do to keep our country safe and free. And I also see the resident, Carol Shantos, here. She was the one who made the request, and I appreciate your good suggestion. All right, moving on to public comment on non-agenda items. I would like to just run over the guidelines, the public comment guidelines that are in the back of the room. I'll call your name when it's your turn to speak. Come to the podium, state your name and address. Direct your comments only to the mayor or commission as a whole. No comments to the audience. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. The town clerk keeps track of time. She has the clock. And please note that we don't engage in dialogue with people making public comments. So with that, I am going to call up Kathy Muskowski, please. I think we only have one on non-agenda.
Good evening, Commissioners. Father God, I just pray for the families of those soldiers. Comfort them. Amen. Commissioners, getting on. Residents of Souls Point should have your ear. It should be our voice that guides and determines the direction of our town. Every ordinance, resolution, policy, grant, expenditure, and project. The town manager, engineer, and the $80,000 comprehensive planner should not have your ear, but instead, you should have their ear. They should listen to our voice through you and be directed by you. They should not work at directing you, especially against the community's voice. They should know and respect all voices in our community. Residents are against taxation without representation. You have been elected by us to represent us. I will remind you your campaign promises that you fed us when you wanted our vote. Stop the biggest tax increase. No sewers. Stop ignoring resident voices. Keep tax rate capped at 2.87. Integrity, leadership. Strong fiscal, responsible government, ready to serve.
Excuse me, Kathy, just keep the, if you please keep the flyer down.
Protect our pocketbook, careful fiscal management. Protect tax dollars and listen to all citizens. Our voice should be your top priority. No resident's voice should ever be silenced, interrupted, or gavelled. The gavel is to keep order with the commission. No resident should be told by management, staff, or you that we are insulting or rude when we share our view. Thank you
Thank you.
for the opportunity to speak.
All right, coming up next, we have Jonathan Shantos. If you want to come up and state your name and address for the record, please? Yes, Jonathan.
Jonathan Shantos. First off, do not interrupt me, because what I've seen, the reason I'm down here is specifically because of that, because the way citizens are being treated doesn't fly. Okay? Now, Ms. Muskowski was right. No taxation without representation. Now, technically, at least one of you was supposed to represent me. Of course, that person doesn't now, so therefore, someone like me has no representation, and you also don't have my consent to govern me. That being said, you do pretty much anything you want, and you have that ability to do that. You can go and vote on proposals, and you can vote on legislation, and you can say, oh, we care about what the citizens think, blah, 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 blah. It is tiresome, it is insulting, and it's getting to the point where it's just like, just do away with the facade. You don't care what people think when they come up here. The only reason you do this is because this is a formality. And that's fine that it's a formality and you believe that. You're welcome to be that ignorant. The problem is when you start interrupting us. We have 3 minutes up here. You get to bloviate, all 5 of you, for hours. Do not infringe on our rights to come up here and express what we feel, even though we already know, the majority of us, know you don't care, and we know that you're not going to change your opinion. But we still come out here and say something because we feel it matters, and the big reason we come out here is because you can't get rid of us. We, however, can get rid of you.
Thank you, Jonathan. All right, that is it for public comment on non-agenda. So let us move to item number 3, additions, deletions, or changes to the agenda. Commissioner Fender.
I'd like to recommend item H, Resolution 924, be moved above item C, specifically because it involves around what we're doing with any type of revenue generated. I will also stipulate that my vote for any type of additional revenue is predicated on how.
Sorry to interrupt.
No. No.
Can't hear.
Would you please get closer to the microphone?
So what I'm saying is that I'd like to move item H up to in front of item C. That's what I'm
I'll second that.
Oh, excuse me. I'm opening it up for discussion. Town manager?
I apologize for having technical difficulty, Madam Mayor. The request and the motion and the second is to move Resolution 924 above the tentative millage rate?
Yes, H above C. That is the motion. Is that on the printout? April, is there a different printout than what is online?
H should be Resolution 924.
I'll make it clear. I'd like to move Resolution 924 above Resolution 920, specifically because it talks about how we will allocate the funds that we are about to vote on, which was the spirit of.
I just wanted to get it straight before, we're open up for,
Madam Mayor?
yes.
I'm trying to partner with my finance director since the attorney's not here.
Okay,
And there's a certain order
right.
that the state lays out for us, and the millage rate should be the first conversation. I think that it's totally up to you all if you want to have the discussion. The resolution, the adoption of a resolution of dedication of millage will occur before you actually vote on the millage then.
Or do you think that the town attorney, can you call him? He said he would be on standby.
You can't spend the millage that you haven't done. So you can have a discussion, you just can't vote.
Okay, okay, I see what you're saying. How about?
What
having a
she's saying is you
discussion
can't spend the millage that you didn't vote to have.
Right, so do you want to have the,
I can't vote on millage. I don't know how it's being allocated.
finance director, please, yes.
So you could have the discussion, but you wouldn't be able to vote on
We're gonna pinky
Resolution 924? I'm sorry?
We're going to pinky promise that we follow through with what we agree on before the discussion?
I can tell you, I promise.
Okay.
I mean, that's what
All
we're
right.
trying to,
I trust you.
I ain't trying to
I'm
pull
just-
anything.
The Department of Revenue guidelines state the millage has to be adopted before you can discuss.
I just sort of think that the content of Resolution 924 predicates, and has been a discussion for several weeks, that led us to the millage rate increase and how we were going to vote on that millage rate increase. So I sort of feel like we have to have that base agreement, which has been proposed several times, whether we voted on it or not. We probably should have voted on it last meeting. I don't think that Resolution 924 is tied at all to the state statutes of how millage gets applied, or the fact that you're voting on the.
And I appreciate your comment, but I want to make sure that we follow legally. I mean, if the
Absolutely.
Department of Revenue says that, then, and if the state says it, then.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, Town
I
Manager.
think that, I think this is a resolution that the town commission has asked for and has added, and that specific resolution is not required by the Department of Revenue, as far as I have read. I understand what the finance director is saying,
Right.
that there is a protocol that typically is followed, but I don't believe that there is anything that mandates that. If it's okay with this commission and you want to follow through on the first and the second, If for some reason we find out from the Department of Revenue tomorrow that it needed to be in a certain order, we'll ask them how to best
Fix that?
fix that, and if it means that we have a special meeting to
Okay,
use whatever language they want to fix that, I think we could do that
okay.
by Friday. But I've read it, I've read the ordinance and the statute, and I don't think that that's going to jeopardize
Okay,
your millage rate discretion.
okay, well, thank you. And I
Okay.
appreciate you making sure we stay on task, Finance Director.
The methodology that's outlined, to be clear,
Right.
is unusual, because you typically will vote for the millage rate to understand how much money we're discussing.
Right.
And then that way, once you have that delta, if you will, then you designate the delta
Right.
in the budget.
But, all right, so you're
But-
saying we can move it
but-
around, we'll,
Staff is standing down.
okay.
So call the question.
I'm calling the question. Town Clerk, will you please call the vote?
Vice Mayor Campbell,
Aye.
Commissioner Bender,
Aye.
Commissioner Bergman,
Yes.
Commissioner Tomcat,
Yes.
Mayor Mayfield.
Yes. All right, so that is the change to the agenda, and then I would like to get a motion to approve the agenda because I see no more changes.
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Excellent. Town Clerk, will you please call the vote?
Commissioner Bender,
Aye.
Commissioner Bergman,
Yes.
Commissioner Tomcat,
Yes.
Mayor Mayfield,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Campbell.
Aye.
All right, thank you. We are moving on to the good part of the meeting, the public hearing. Item A is discuss and accept the manager's memo and coordinating documents regarding the tentative millage rate and proposed budget. I believe that the town has a presentation. Is that correct, Town Manager?
Yes, ma'am, give me 1 minute.
Summary
to
of the
get
memo
it
and the
again.
documents.
Madam Mayor? Yes. Commissioners, in your packet, you have an extensive memo, and for purposes of presentation tonight, we have before you this presentation, our Finance Director will walk us through.
I'm sorry, is it better for me to sit there? I feel bad. Can everybody see the screen? I know it's not above us. We're good here.
They all can see it up here.
Okay, perfect. So before you is the initial step that we would look to complete tonight is setting the tentative millage rate. To the right there is the notice of proposed tax increase. If approved this evening, this is the ad or something very similar. It will include the changes over the rollback rates, but that will be published in the local paper before the final budget hearing, and it will announce all of the locations for the final budget hearing and millage rate adoption. So off to the left, the substantive reason for the millage rate of 3.2688 is, rather than the rollback rate, is for the continuation of town priorities, including major capital projects, to benefit the health, safety, and welfare of the residents of Sewell's Point. It's important to note the 2021-2022 operating millage rate of 3.2688 that is being proposed tonight is greater than the rollback rate of 2.8056 by 16.51%. The tax levy calculation is kind of the Reader's Digest version of what that trim notice looks like when we submit our final certification. It's your gross taxable value for operating purposes times the proposed millage rate divided by 1,000 gives you your total ad valorem property taxes. That 2406079 is not what we use in the budget. We budget at 95% collection, which is a state statute, a minimum. So you can go above that if you'd like to budget more than that 95%, but at a minimum, we have to budget the collection of that revenue. And that's where in your budget packet, you'll see the 2.285775 in ad valorem tax revenue. Next slide. This is the budget summary. This is another required ad that will go in the paper. It is the summary of the general fund millage rate at 3.2688. The proposed operating budget expenditures for the town of Sewell's Point are 43.36% less than last year's operating expenditures. The biggest difference for that is the almost depletion of your reserve funds. So while the millage rate is higher, the total fund balance and operating reserves and revenues and expenses are 43% lower than the prior year. Off to the side there is the summary of your revenue sources. It's broken out by sales and use tax. I kind of gave some general numbers of how you would tie that out to what your budget looks like when you see the detail. Total revenue of $3.553775. On the expense side, it's broken out by general government, public safety, public works, and the capital outlay, with that reserved for capital improvement of $330,000. Next slide. In speaking of reserves, we wanted to make sure to mention that the GFOA recommendation is to have a minimum of 2 months of 2 months of regular general fund operating revenues or regular general fund operating expenditures as an unrestricted fund balance. For the tentative budget of 21-22, that number would be $600,000. Our current unrestricted fund balance as of 7/31 is $75,198. You do still have a restricted fund balance in the disaster reserve for $1 million and your restricted operating reserve for $500,000. And then the last slide. The anticipated grant reimbursements that we expect to come in the subsequent fiscal, or in the coming fiscal year. We have the DEP Planning Grant for $75,000. That's still pending. We've not brought that to you for final signature. It's still going through legal review. Same with the DEO Planning Grant for the comprehensive plan update. That will be applied towards the comprehensive plan project that you're working on. Again, pending. We haven't brought that for final signatures as well. And then on the receipt dates there, those are the expectations of when we would anticipate those funds coming in based on deliverable timelines. We do still have the Indian River Lagoon Council, the $180,000 and $150,000, that total to $330,000 for the South Sewells Point Road project. That's been awarded, but we have to wait until the project has been finalized, completed, and everything paid before we can submit for reimbursement there. We've also been told by Indian River Lagoon Council that that would not come before October 1st. And then we're working with the HMGP Phase 1 Part 3 award. That's the total HMGP award for $877,500. We have begun collecting some of that. To date, we've collected almost $300,000 of that, but it's on a reimbursement basis, and so we have to cut the check, clear the check, submit for reimbursement, and then so part of that will roll over into the next fiscal year simply because of timing. So the total anticipated reimbursements from grants that we are looking for are around $905,000. At that time, we would bring you a budget amendment, ask you where you would like to allocate those funds, and would make the recommendation that they are part of your unrestricted fund balance replenishment.
All right, thank you, Cheryl. That was a good
Madam
one.
Mayor, Commissioners, as well, just to wrap it up, the documents under item 3A of this public hearing have been before you for this discussion and previous discussions during the following meetings: the July 13th, 2021 Town Commission Special Meeting, July 27th, 2021 Town Commission Regular Meeting, August 10th, 2021 Town Commission Workshop, and the August 24th, 2021 Town Commission Regular Meeting. So at this time, I will ask the mayor and the commissioners to consider the following two motions. And I'll read the two motions and then ask you to go back to the first and vote on them separately. The first motion is to adopt the proposed fiscal year 2021-2022 operating millage rate of 3.268 mils, and this is greater than the rollback rate of 2.8056 mils by 16.51%. And the second will be the motion to adopt the proposed fiscal year 2021-2022 budget as presented. Of course, this will be after you hear from the public.
Okay. That looks like, Town Manager, before I get to the discussions, when I'm looking at my agenda, we have the discussing, accepting the memo and the documents, comments, then we are going to do the resolution about the resolution number 924, and then resolution number 920, and then what I think you're talking about was shown as item D, the announcement of the percentage by which the adopted tentative millage rate exceeded that memo.
Correct.
Seems to have-
That's a
yes.
portion of that memo.
Yes.
I was just wrapping up the
Oh, so you're,
presentation with
okay,
it.
so you're
Yeah.
talking, okay, you're
Saying
kind of
later-
talking about the
later
whole
on
meeting.
after-
I got you
sure.
as opposed to right
But
this minute.
after the public speaks to you.
Okay, all right. Thank you. So we are going to open it up to discussion. Commissioner Tompeck, you were first.
Yeah, I just had one quick question, and Cheryl, maybe you can refresh my memory about the operating reserve restricted. What is that fund, and what is that fund allowed to be used for?
So that was a policy decision that the commission made when we adopted the finance policy last year, and so that is at your discretion. So you've restricted those funds, but it's a policy decision that you could request at any time to use those for whatever you see fit, but that would come from the commission level, not staff.
Okay, so I mean, the differentiation between unrestricted and restricted, there really isn't much of a distinction, because we could just vote to unrestricted and use it if we wanted to. It's not like it's tied to a storm or some catastrophe or something like that, right?
Correct. So if a storm were to come, we would come to you and say, we would like to book this out of the disaster reserve. Can you approve this contract for debris removal? Is that amenable? And this is where the funding would come from.
Okay, thank you.
And if I may, Madam Mayor, and when you have agencies like Moody's who want to give credit ratings for municipalities, they look for these types of designations by policy. And so, and following the GFOC.
Okay, thank you, Town Manager. Commissioner, Vice Mayor Campos, excuse me.
Because we're looking at the documents provided by the town manager, and because my email has been not working for the past 2 weeks, I just wanted to ask if the requested information that was made 2 weeks ago, which was the year-to-date actual income and revenue, revenue and expenses, the current year budget, and the proposal for 21-22, was that provided to the commissioners between the last meeting and today?
That,
Town Manager, you can answer.
I'm
the,
asking you.
you're asking me if the document, isn't it in the backup information that you have
No.
currently?
No.
My apologies. This is my first day back from the, well, no, it wasn't. I was here Monday.
Last year, we started this budget process much earlier, and it would have allowed for, and I'm sorry, and I know you're under the weather, but because we started the workshops later, we now don't have the time to get that requested info. We all asked that before we make the budget. The budget that we got last meeting was 2/3 of a page, and I know you're always testing my eyesight for the minutia, but it was not a full budget, and so we asked, there were some other specific questions regarding FICA tax going up substantially, workers' comp going up, in proportionate to what our payroll is, and typically payroll is in proportion to workers' comp premiums and FICA tax. So I asked if that was perhaps because we were changing someone from a contractor, independent contractor, to an employee. The town manager didn't understand. There was also a question about using retained earnings as an income item, which was a little confusing since we're dipping into reserves. So if you dip into reserves, you don't normally use that as income for retained earnings. So I didn't have my email for the past 2 weeks. I did ask for it last week, and apparently the comments that we had requesting that didn't get to you or back to us. So I'm just clarifying that. I'm not, okay,
Okay. May I?
please,
Okay.
please.
So the expanded budget that you asked for is in your packet. So you wanted detailed line items. There's a 5-page budget of the recommended budget instead of the 2-page summary, right? Is that?
You can direct me to what you're referring to. That's not the format that I asked. So,
Okay.
and we could talk about it later because we were told that the budget was in the same format and provided as much information as in the past. So when we get to that, we could talk about it now, or we could talk about it then.
I mean, I feel we could talk about it now. My understanding
Yeah, okay.
in watching the meeting
Mhm.
was that the original budget that was presented 2 weeks ago was not detailed enough. Is that correct? That you wanted the further line items?
It wasn't just, the wording of just detail enough wasn't specific. It was
Okay.
the columns of what our current budget expenditures are. That's zero-based budget when you're looking at what you're spending this current year. So it was the specific format that I've found normal in all budget cycles. You normally look at, Beverly, is that you? No, it's not. Okay. So I didn't just say, hey, send us more information. It was specifically year-to-date actuals, current year as planned and amended, and proposal for this upcoming year, side by side.
I see.
Okay.
So similar to your financial statements, but with the added column of a proposed budget? Is that?
Something like that, yeah.
I see.
So
Okay.
we have time between now and the final, because we still have one more meeting.
We do.
I'm sympathetic to your situation, don't know the specifics. I'm sorry, I know I've got kids, and people are sick, and you got to scatter around. I know you're spread thin doing a lot of things.
I had
But
COVID.
perhaps that might be something that we do before the final meeting.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
sure.
Mayor,
Just a point,
may I just
hold-
ask for clarification?
Yes, and then maybe I want to add, I do have a question, but I thought we could get on our email on the internet. Like, how do you, I mean, that's,
Or a phone call?
clarify, like, I mean, I understand that is a problem, but I feel like they're very accessible, and I'm not saying that, because I don't see the budget you're talking about in here either, to your point. But I feel like I saw it at some point, I thought it was emailed to all the commissioners, I did see that budget, but,
Well, it's
she was out for a long time, and I feel like we kind of got to work, anyways, I just was curious how you couldn't
Well,
get email
yeah.
for 2 weeks. But
I've been on the commission for 7 years. This is the first time I've ever had problems with email. I called last week and said, would you print for me emails that might have been sent to me? And I came by and picked them up. And it wasn't in that packet, so.
All right.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, town manager.
So each month you receive financial documents. Each month, the finances that give you the year-to-date information compared to the current budget is available to you. So you're asking for the same information that you receive every month, but with the added column of a projected budget next to it.
Yes. And I know I could take 3 or 4 things and put it all on but
I can do
I mean,
that
that's
quickly.
why we have a great Cheryl here to easily format it for us. I just wanted to make sure that I was getting all the information, because I thought that we were pretty much in unison that we wanted that information. And since that's part of the agenda of the managers coordinating documents, I wanted to make sure I was on the same page. So thank you very much, and welcome back.
Finance Secretary, quick, I do see on the budget that is included in here, because I don't see the one he's talking about in here, but I will say that the retained earnings, I don't see anything there. So that's something that has been taken out. I don't know if that was something in your software that was confusing on the other one.
It
so.
was the kindness of your town manager to cover for your finance director who was out for 2
Yes,
weeks sick.
Yes. So that one part is.
So it was,
Yes.
my apologies.
No worries, thank you. Is there any other discussion? If not, I think we were looking for a motion to accept the memo and the documents, and then we will move on to the public comment. Is that correct, Town Manager?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So I would look for a motion to accept, and then we will continue on with BHC. Yes, Commissioner Fender.
So just to clarify the discussion we had before about concerns about the protocol, it seems to me that we don't want to deviate from standard budgetary hearing protocol, and if putting 924 in between those two things, that was not the intent. The intent was to put it so it did not invalidate our standard sequence. So if I'm suggesting you may not want to take the vote until after the 924 discussion.
I'm sorry, well, this is something separate. I have
If you
to
say
admit,
it
Town
matters
Manager-
not, I'm okay with that.
This, Town Manager, clarify with this. I was asking you about this earlier. It is a little bit confused. We're just accepting the documents, but this is not accepting the millage rate. This is not,
Correct.
this is not voting on the millage
Okay,
rate. This is not
correct.
doing all that. So
Fair enough.
this is just like a momentum that these documents are, we accept them. So I'm looking for a motion for that, and then we'll move on to item B.
So moved.
And can I get a second?
Second.
All right. Could you please call the vote, Town Clerk?
Discussion?
I'm sorry, I thought I had kind of gone off.
Discussion to the motion is, I'm unable to accept this motion because the documents that I requested have not been provided. I would also like to talk about the specific budget when it comes up on 5E. So I'm just stating that for
Okay.
my purpose.
All right,
Okay?
thank you. Town Clerk, please call the vote.
Commissioner Kurzman,
Yes.
Commissioner Tompak,
Yes.
Mayor Mayfield.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Campbell,
Nay.
Commissioner Fender.
Yes.
All right. Let's move on to public comment, please. All right. If you will come up to the podium and say your name and address for the record, please. Chris Rao.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. I'm Chris Rayo. I'm Dr. Chris Rayo. I've been a doctor here for the past 20 years plus. I've been a resident here in Sewell's Point for the past 20 years. I'm also a Navy vet. I just don't believe that it is a good time to raise taxes. It's not a good time. We're in the middle of a COVID pandemic now. When it comes to the fall, that's a natural time when the SARS corona cases are going up. And we're already are seeing record cases now. Now, we've all been impacted by this for the past year plus at least. We've become sick. We've known others, friends, and also family members which have become sick. We've known some which have died. And besides those losses, there is the economic loss for the past year and a half plus. For the service industry, restaurants and the like, but also in the health industry as well. Our income had dropped 50%, and the cost to run the office it went way up because we have to deal with employees being sick that don't show up, as well as to try to support them when they're sick, to take care of their kids and such. And the only thing I'll plead is that we really look not to raise the taxes at this time. With the budget, there's so much of the money that's coming in. It's a balance between the money that's coming in and the money which is going out. And I don't know why, with the record home sales and the prices and the taxes that we get from that we have to raise the taxes. I just don't grasp that because the property values have gone up and up and up. So I don't know why we have to raise them on that end. As far as for the spending end, I think that we can work on some things to not to catch up on the reserves in one year as opposed to catching up, the $600,000 in 1 year. Can we kind of catch that up in a two years? But there must be a way to trim the costs at this time. I'm very concerned with raising of the taxes, how that is going to impact the residents that have to work and live here in Sewell's Point. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you. All right. Up next, we have Frank Tadicas, if I said that right. Come on up.
Good afternoon, or good evening, I should say, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak before you. My name is Frank Tadicas. I live at 12 Crane's Nest, just down the road here. A couple things. One, I'd like to congratulate the staff on putting together the budget package. I thought you did a pretty good job when I looked it over. However, when I went through and I analyzed it, I pulled out all of the non-recurring revenues and non-recurring expenses to kind of look at apples to apples and oranges to oranges. And overall, when you do that, the budget reflects a 8% decrease in expenses, which is admirable. However, we're looking at a 16% millage increase, which is not so admirable. So one of the things that I found in the package was, what were the assumptions? There were no assumptions with the budget package to where you could take a look at things. For example, there's a 12% reduction in building permit fees, yet a 50% reduction in planning and zoning fees. Shouldn't these be proportional to each other? Because it would seem to me that they're linked. There was a 67.7% reduction in civil fines, an 83% reduction in fines local ordinance violation. Why the reductions? Do we expect a more, let's just say, compliant citizenry and people not violating the laws that they have in the past? And also there was a reduction in town licenses, yet sales tax and state revenue sharing are increasing 4.2 and 4.7 respectively. So what are the assumptions on economic activity in the community? It would seem to me that that would be part of the basis of putting a package together. So I have a couple proposals. Number one, I would maintain the permit and planning and zoning fees at their current levels because it seems that there's a fair amount of building activity going on in the community, and I don't see that abating, particularly if the economy remains the way it is. Secondly, I would maintain the civil fines, local ordinance violations at current levels, and town licenses at the current levels. If you did that, it would reduce the ad valorem tax needed by $179,560, which would be an increase of 9.2% versus the 16 that you're currently looking at. So I would suggest or would appreciate it if you would take that into consideration. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Frank.
Thank you. All right, up next, we have Don Weiner.
Don Weiner, 19 Ridgeland Drive, resident of over 45 years, former mayor, former commissioner, etc. I think you all know that I rarely come to meetings and rarely speak. The budget and the millage rate that you're talking about is something we never experienced, or I never experienced until several years ago. Our goal was always keep the millage rate and control spending, coordinate with the millage, try and raise revenue where you could. Town was growing. Real estate revenue, tax revenue increased. Right now, you have I read that the average home price, sale price, was up something like 23 to 28% in our area. The comment on millage, and we're being lower than others, our median, as you know, our median home value is somewhere between $750,000 and now between $750,000 and $780,000. The city of Stewart median home value is around $220,000. They got to have a higher millage. What's important here to me is you all live at home, you all have income, and you live within your means. You have to. We are a town, we need to live within our means. You can't go out and say, oh, I want to build an addition on my home, so I'll just take in more money. That's what's happening here. It's like, this is what we want to do, so let's just raise the millage to accomplish it. What I don't see, and what's most important, is there are some very admirable projects that you have. And what the residents need to do is really discuss it. I've heard it discussed here. I haven't seen, other than the normal group, I haven't seen very large discussion on it. You've got projects like the road elevation. You've got projects like sewer and other projects. You've got a 5-year capital plan that you're going to discuss. However, what I don't see is a 5-year budget projection. You've got fire rescue services that are going to go up dramatically in the next 3 or 4 years. You've got the expenses for the road and other projects. If you look at what's happening in the country these days, You can't get help, construction help, to do anything. The prices of products and materials is going through the roof. So whatever you decide to do today, it's going to be a lot more expensive tomorrow. And all I'm urging you is keep the millage rate where it is for the moment. Do a 5-year budget plan. Do 5-year expenses versus revenue. Then you can compare, because what you're doing today is you're going to create a rate. For example, borrowing money to build a road. That locks the commission and the town in for the next many years. Our fire rescue contract locks the town in, increasing administrative expenses in the town, raising salaries. I'm not saying they shouldn't be raised, but all of those things commit the town going forward. And it would be, to me, it's just sound fiscal sense. Do what you would do at home, learn to control your spending within your revenue, and do a 5-year plan so you know where you're going and not just committing the town to huge expenses. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Don. All right, up next, we have Carol Shantos.
I don't know what to say to this board.
Can you put the mic closer to your,
I don't know what to say to this board.
thank you.
Because I just heard two gentlemen, and they're on the right track, but they don't even know half of what you're up to. I looked at the budget. I used to do budgets. Your budget has, for your salaries, and there's one number. That tells me nothing. It's not itemized. I mean, I feel like you don't want to be transparent to the people who live here. I guess you can have all those numbers, but we can't. I can't make a judgment on that. I have to go looking to find last year's budget. I don't know what I have. There's suggestions of what's an average salary for a town manager and what's the middle and what. I don't know what she's making. There was nothing on the budget that said what it was and where you're thinking of going to it. The budget was a disaster to me because it lacked such detail. If I wanted to look at anything, it just was one number. That tells me nothing. I'd like to talk about the hurricane reserve. I call it the hurricane reserve. I don't know how many people were here in 2004 and 2005 when we had the hurricanes. But I distinctly remember that when the hurricanes came through, there was no money in the reserve budget. And the board had to go and take a $1 million loan. Now there's $1 million, and we're 16 years down the road. Tells me that should be larger, but there's no point when this lady's saying, well, if you want to use that money, just sign it. Even though you're not supposed to, you can use it. And that's true, but it should be for an emergency. It shouldn't be for the second payment on the project on South Sluice Point Road because you're short of funds. Now, you have a capital project. This man was saying he thinks the prices that, you might want to have some plans. Well, we've been talking a long time, and I look at that capital project, and one of them is sewers. Sewers that no one has spoken to the residents about. Several years ago, a number of us went and we got signatures on who didn't want them, and there was a majority on that list. Then your city manager had a meeting here, and we filled out papers, and the residents were happy with the septics. There was no desire on the group that was here to go to sewers. Yet, I look
on the capital 5-year plan, and you have money coming out this year, $250,000 for sewers. And I'm going to guess from
Thank you,
what
Carol.
I've heard,
I think 3 minutes. Thank you, Carol. Thank you.
that you probably applied for grants already without public knowledge.
All right. Next up, we have Arkin Vakani. I apologize that I probably didn't say Arkin. Okay. Vakani.
Everybody that spoke before me is pretty amazing. They pretty much said everything that I'm going to say, but I wrote this down because I just needed to kind of just speak my mind. So this is basically the second meeting that I've attended regarding the town budget. I didn't really understand what was going on until one of the commissioners explained, that you guys want to raise taxes to pay for a project that has gone over schedule and over budget. In addition, you'd also like to double the town manager's salary, and I believe that is correct. That's what I was told. As for the town manager, I think we just find somebody less expensive. I can't imagine that she is so amazing that we need to actually double her salary. No one's really that good. I run a successful and profitable business, and we need a town manager that can do the same thing. I need to know what she does that makes her think that her salary should be the same as our governor. As for the expensive project, I'd like to know who was in charge of the bidding process and who allowed this to get out of hand and go over budget. I don't think any of you are contractors or perhaps even built anything. If this is the case, then you were in over your head and you made some big mistakes that you're now asking us to pay for. I can't seem to understand how you're asking for more money when property values have increased and there are more homes being built in this town that would give additional funds to the town budget. In short, you're spending more than you guys are making. This isn't Washington, D.C., where no one is held accountable for frivolous spending and wasting taxpayer money. This is Sewell's Point, and you will all be held accountable. As for those who are in favor of the increase in taxes, I applaud you. I applaud you. Your names and addresses have been recorded from the past meetings, so even if the tax increase is not passed, I know that you will pay the increased amount that you guys are voting for. There's nothing that will stop you from writing a check to the town. You need to put your money where your mouth is. As for all of you sitting up high up there on your perch and looking down on us peasants, I want to remind you guys that we put you there and that we can also replace you guys next go around. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you. All right, we are moving on to item H, which is resolution number 929, adopting the dedication of millage for capital projects. Town clerk, would you please read the title into the record?
Resolution number 924, a resolution of the...
920. Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Regarding the dedication of funds to capital projects and providing for severability, conflicts, and effective dates.
Thank you, Town Clerk. Town Manager, I thought I heard you saying something. Is there something?
ma'am.
Okay, thank you. All right, I am going to call for discussion amongst the commission.
I don't have one, I was just pointing order there.
Oh, okay.
Cancel it.
All right, discussion amongst the commission about this resolution, number 924.
I'd like to move approval.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All right, Town Clerk, would you please read the vote? Call the vote, excuse me.
Commissioner Tompak?
Yes.
Mayor Mayfield?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Campo?
Yes.
Commissioner Fender?
Yes.
Commissioner Kurzman?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Okay, we are going to go back to item C, which is resolution number 920, adopting the tentative millage rate for fiscal year 2021-2022. Town Clerk, would you please read the resolution title into the record?
Resolution number 920, a resolution of the Town Commission of the Town of Sewell Point, Florida, adopting the tentative millage rate for the Town of Sewell Point for the fiscal year commencing on October 1st, 2021, and ending on September 30th, 2022, and providing an effective date and other purposes.
Thank you very much. Discussion amongst the commission. Seeing none, I'd like to look for a motion to approve Resolution Number 920, adopting the tentative millage rate. Nobody wants to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Kurzman. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Town Clerk, please call the vote.
Mayor Mayfield?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Campo?
Nay.
Commissioner Bender?
Yes.
Commissioner Kurzman?
Yes.
Commissioner Santos?
Yes.
All right, now we're going to move to item D, and this, I believe, Town Manager, will you explain this? This is the announcement of the percentage by which the adopted tentative millage rate exceeds the rollback rate.
Yes, ma'am. Madam Mayor, Commissioners, this is our role to make sure that we follow what the state statute asks us to record and memorialize, and so we read this information into the record. The budget presented before you today is crafted using a 3.2688 millage rate. Pursuant to Florida State Statute 200.065, parentheses 2, parentheses D and E, the following announcement must be made. The Town of Sewell's Point, Florida, rollback rate is 2.8056. The percentage increase in property taxes for fiscal year 2021 through 2022 is 16.82%, and the town's millage rate is to be adopted is 3.2688 mils. The fiscal year 2021-2022 operating millage rate of 3.2688 mils is greater than the rollback rate of 2.8056 mils by 16.51%. This represents an increase of 2.79% in taxable property values as determined by the Property Appraiser's Office, generating an additional $329,060 in ad valorem taxes. The substantive reason for the 3.2688 mils rather than the rollback rate are the continuation of the town priorities, including the major capital projects to benefit the health, safety, and welfare of the residents of Sewell's Point. In those projects, also, Madam Mayor and Commissioner, we have identified the resilient components of each, and we know that that helps to satisfy the new state statute, Section 380.093. The Commission and residents can expect continuity of public services with this millage rate and proposed balanced budget without reaching into reserves. Additionally, the increased millage allows for the appropriate grant matching opportunities, which are necessary for the completion of the South Sewell's Point Road project. To emphasize again, the documents under item 3A of the public hearing have been before you for discussion during the July 13, 2021 Town Commission special meeting, July 27, 2021 Town Commission regular meeting, August 10, 2021 Town Commission workshop, August 24, 2021 Town Commission regular meeting. So this is the time for the two
Okay.
motions.
Thank you, Town Manager. So yes, as she just mentioned, we are going to look for two motions. One, to adopt the proposed fiscal year 2021-2022 operating millage rate of 3.2688 mils, which is greater than the rollback rate of 2.8056 mils by 16.51%. That is the first one. The second one is the motion to adopt the proposed fiscal year 2021-2022 budget as presented. Is there any discussion amongst the commission? And if seeing none, I would look for a motion to approve the first one I discussed. That I said.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Kurzman.
Second.
Thank you. Town Clerk, will you please call the votes?
Mayor Mayfield?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Campo?
Nay.
Commissioner Bender?
Yes.
Commissioner Kurzman?
Yes.
Commissioner Santos?
Yes.
And then looking to item 2, to adopt the proposed fiscal year 2021-2022 budget. I'm looking for a motion for that too, please.
The rolling voice.
A motion from my commission.
I'll move approval.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
This is for 921?
No, this is not, no, I'm sorry, no resolution yet. No, this is the second motion, which is just to approve the budget as presented. We have not gotten to that yet.
I'll second it,
Okay,
yes.
thank you. Town Clerk, would you please?
Discussion?
Okay, yes. Well, I didn't see any buttons, but now I do. So Vice Mayor Campo.
So we're voting on passing the budget. So I would like to look at the budget, which is, sorry, Frank, 5E. Okay, so if the town manager could bring that up. It says Exhibit A to Resolution 921. Since it is the budget. So the finance officer and the town manager are saying that this format is the same that's been used in the past? Is that what the town manager is saying?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let's look at the salary expenses. It's about half of the way down, salaries and wages. Final budget, $1,082,197. Recommended 1.150. Does everyone see that, commissioners? Okay.
Yes.
Dave, you see that?
Right there?
Yep. Okay, so now I'd like to, if you would indulge me, Town Manager, go to our website and let's look at the budgets from previous years that we have published, and let's compare that with what we're showing the public, if you wouldn't mind. It's on the landing page, government, I think it's government, and then there you go, approved budget. So let's look at 2021, the top one, yes. Let's look down about 3/4 of the way, and we have Townhall HR, Mrs. Shantos, you're right on the money. Do you see how the town manager, the town assistant, the town clerk, the town finance director, the building department, and the public department, public works department? So those are broken out in previous years. So I wonder if we could look at budget year 2019 to 2020 on that same landing page of our website.
That's 2019 to 2020?
19 to 20. Yeah. No. And the top of page 2, broken down town manager, town assistant, town clerk, building department, public works department. I wonder if we could look at budget year 17 to 18 just to kind of cut to the chase. It's the same in all of them. If you were to look at, on the left side, total revenue, there's a big dark bar. Expenses, if you can go down a little bit more, on the left side would be the cursor. You've got human resources, you've got town manager, town assistant, town clerk, building department, public works, town hall. Would you still say that the budget that you've got in our packet, which is item 5E, is the same format that has been presented on these web pages?
I would actually say that it's more detailed.
Yes.
So,
As far as the breakdown of the salaries?
if I may,
Sure.
in those prior years, those salaries included FICA, retirement, insurance, and the total compensation package. In this budget, in 2021, we've tried to identify each of those line items for you, not just in salaries and wages, but in FICA, retirement, insurance expenses.
Okay, but as far as positions of staff and their individual salaries, going to Mrs. Chantos's note, it's if you look at this year's budget, it's a black box. It's 1.082 versus 1.150. And I'm not voting for the budget, so I'm not going to beat a dead horse.
Okay.
But this is the lack of clarity, lack of transparency that puts me in a difficult position when I go out to the public and they say, what are you paying the town manager? Well, I think Michelle Berger deserves a nice salary, okay? But I think we need to look the public in the eye and say, this is what the salary is. And then we don't have to take the heat. We don't have that breakdown. if we don't have the breakdown, that turns all of the control to a big black box, and that's a difficult thing. We only do two things as a commission. We pass a budget and we hire a town manager. We're a very weak form of government. So to pass on the accountability by just having a big black box, to me, makes me feel very uncomfortable. But that's really all I wanted to say. I think it's something that needed to be pointed out, because when I am told this is the correct information, I need it to be reliable, and if not, then it erodes trust, which slows things down. So
Before I start doing that.
I think that I've got other questions regarding the capital improvement project, but that's all the questions that I have on this.
Thank you for your feedback.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I want to say, I believe the information is correct. You just wanted it laid out differently. I feel like you could have asked there, specifically at the last, that you wanted that broken out, because we're all like on the same team here, trying to get
yeah.
things done and so just feel free to, like you stayed at the meeting.
May I respond?
Yes, you may respond, because
We were told that it was the same format. It's not the same format. We don't have a breakdown for positions. That's a different format. So why should I spend extra time when elementary things, then I say at a public meeting, please give me the budget in this format, and is this information set up the same way? If that's not correct, then why should I bother other people with other questions when the most rudimentary things aren't covered? So that's my difficulty, is if I can't get what I get from a public meeting. I mean, I try to get things other ways, okay, and I have tried. I don't want to embarrass people. I try to ask that even before we started the meeting again today. So I'm not going to spend people's times if what I'm asking for isn't provided, because I don't want to just be a bugaboo. I want to get the information that I ask for, and if not, then we'll go on and we'll pass the budget. So that's all. Thank you.
Madam Mayor?
Commissioner Fender, yes.
Well, I'm sorry. If I
Yes,
could
fine.
get a point of clarification so I know how to do my job better. What I'm hearing you saying is you want the position salaries. In the
Yes.
past, your police department has been itemized together. Do you need individual officer salaries as well, or just a total police department?
However, it's been done in the past, and
Total.
In the past, there's been a different methodology because of the officers. I mean, what I would like to suggest, since you're going to be working the budget all over, and I'm sure you're behind, but perhaps when you come back with the second reading, having those items broken down, like it's been done in the past, like we were told it was going to be. And then I think that restores a lot of trust.
So individual salaries with the exception of the police department. Are we on the same page?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Fender.
So I concur that transparency is key, and I think that we should be listing salaries. But to me, I'm more interested in the numbers, honestly. And so I heard comments about doubling of salaries and things like that, which seemed a little bit astronomical to me. But just doing the quick numbers with a calculator, if I did the math right, looking at your salaries and wages line item, it looks like an increase of 5.8% to me. And if I do the bottom line, that includes the additional detail that you itemized, that looks like an increase of 9%. So I'm assuming inflation is hitting some of these insurance and
Well, and
extra.
we have an open officer position, and so an open police officer position. So there's an
Well, I would
expectation-
assume that filling that would hit the,
It is in there, but I don't know what that cost of health insurance is going to
well, I
be
guess
for that
my
person.
point is the percent increase,
Yeah.
to me, high. But we're hitting some inflationary pressures in the economy right now, but we're looking at overall somewhere in the range of single digits, 5.8 to 9%, if, at first pass, right? So, all right. But yeah, I concur that it would be nice to make sure that we're fully disclosing.
Okay, thank you. Vice Mayor Campo.
Yeah, the problem of this format is it begs the question, is everyone getting a 3% increase, or is the town manager getting a 30% increase? And if we have that good information, then some of the misinformation that was presented is knocked down. But this is a big black box. theoretically, you could take all of the increase and put it all to the building official, or all to Jeff, or all to the town manager. So that's the issue that I have. We have clarity, we have that information that's sent out to the public, then we don't have to get the comments of the mistrust that we have tonight. Okay, thank you very much. You're very gracious.
Just a side note, I believe the commission decides the town manager's salary, so when we approve the contract, so I'm not worried about that happening since it's a legal document saying what her salary is. And as for the rest, I believe our charter says mostly that the town is run by the manager and she oversees that. I agree, some breakdown of salaries, I bet the public would like to see that because that's how it's been run before. I think that's beneficial information. But I think by all accounts, we're operating the way the government and our charter intended. So I just want to clarify that there's...
So we have a motion and a second and no further discussion. Thank you for indulging me.
No
Madam
problem.
Mayor,
Yes.
and for the
Madam Mayor,
future,
yes.
I will supply the contract for myself that has the verbiage in it that says that the manager's salary is supposed to be pulled and not a part of that discussion during the budget.
Okay.
It's not supposed to be part of the pay scale during the budget.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, town clerk, would you please call the vote?
Mayor Mayfield?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Gamble?
Nay.
Commissioner Fender?
Yes.
Commissioner Kurzman?
Yes.
Commissioner Tomback?
Yes.
All right. Moving on to item E, resolution number 921, adopting the tentative operating budget for fiscal year 2021-2022. Town clerk, would you please read the resolution title?
Resolution of the Town Commission of the Town of Sewell's Point, Florida, adopting the tentative budget of the Town of Sewell's Point for the fiscal year commencing on October 1st, 2021, and ending on September 30th, 2022, and providing an effective date and other purposes.
All right, thank you very much. Any discussion amongst the commission? Seeing none, I would look for a motion to approve resolution number 921. We just approved the budget, so we just need to approve the resolution that we approve the budget.
I'll make a motion to move 921.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Town clerk, will you please call the vote?
Vice Mayor Gamble?
Nay.
Commissioner Fender?
Aye.
Commissioner Kurzman?
Yes.
Commissioner Tomback?
Yes.
Mayor Mayfield?
Yes. All right, moving on to item F, resolution number 922, adopting the 5-year capital improvement plan for fiscal year 2021-2022. Town clerk, would you please read the resolution?
Resolution of the Town Commission of the Town of Sewell's Point, Florida, adopting the 5-year capital improvement plan for fiscal year 2021-2022, and providing for an effective date and other purposes.
Thank you very much. Discussion amongst the commission, please. Vice Mayor Campo.
We've had charrettes, we've had feedback, we've had consultants, and we really didn't need them because the 5 commissioners said loud and clear from the very beginning that the number one priority, Commissioner Kurzman was the leader, and the steward down there making sure everyone's on time. The number one project was South Sewell's Point Road. Do any commissioners think that, remember us having a different number one capital improvement? Was there any other recollection? Okay.
Well, I'll add, I mean, tactically, yes, but we have a 30-year plan, and we have lots of projects.
Right. So when you look at this capital improvement, you know, the idea of a priority list is there's got to be a number one, and that makes, you got to have the number two. But when you look at our capital improvement project, we've got, the road will not be finished because we're spending $2.3 million on septic to sewer. You've got to have a number one and you've got to have a number two. What I would suggest is that those numbers be moved up a notch so that the 1 million and the 1.3 million are spent on finishing the road. That's the grief that we're getting, is finish the road, finish the flooding.
Point me at your 1.3, and what are the numbers you're referring to?
South Sewell, the
What line item?
6th down, South Sewell's Point septic to sewer. You have,
75,000?
no, 2 more down.
2 more down.
South Sewell's Point septic to sewer.
2 more across.
2 up.
2 more across.
2 up.
1.3 in 2024.
Yeah, I'm sorry, yeah.
Okay.
So if we,
No, 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 no.
Yeah,
No.
I know. It's just
No,
not
you-
have my copy. I want to have a say after you're finished.
Chief Tina, will you? All right, keep going, please. Please going, Commissioner Fender.
I'm done.
Oh, okay. Okay, continue, Vice Mayor, please.
yeah, and just as an aside, I think every line item before a vote is open to a public discussion if a card is put as far as that. My thought is, if we really are serious about finishing South Sewell's Point Road, why are we diverting money into septic to sewer? And when we do the math, it's a price 4 to 5 times what we spent in North Sewell's Point. In North Sewell's Point, there was basically no town money put in there, and it was $8,000 per resident. Right now, we're talking about $32,000. And it's mandatory town-wide, guys, okay? So why would you do that when we can spend the money on the road?
All right, Commissioner Kurzman?
Yes, I just only want to see in here right now, I'm only looking for the road project at this point. The septic to sewer being over 2.5 million right now, without an exact cost of what it's going to be and being mandatory. I'm more worried about this project first. This has always been my number one concern. I want to get one thing done right now, and that's right here. It's called Phase Part 4, Phase 2, Phase 3, and Phase 4. And, that's my main thing. Let me look over here. We also have to worry about bridges that we have in the town, especially the one going to Island Road. If that collapses, that's something that needs to be redone as well. And I don't want to get sidetracked at this point. And if somebody would throw a number at us and they could say it's not mandatory, and it's going to cost a minimal amount of money, I'd let the rest of the commission decide on that at that point. But right now, I can't put this in there at this point till I want to get the road project done. And I said it the last meeting we had, I didn't want anything else in there. I just want to concentrate on this. This is really where the money's got to go. We've been flooding, and, even tonight, I've heard, false information, but the only thing, and I've said it from the beginning, the tax increase, 100% of the tax increase is just going to go to fix the road and take care of the flooding. And those are my two concerns, and that's been my number one priority, and it's not changing. And that's what the tax increase brings. So be it. That's got to get fixed. I just can't see driving through salt water, crumbling roads, and we do need to get this project done. It's not just the main road, it's also some of the side roads that are flooding. This is really going to help the town. This is our infrastructure, and this is so important right now. I wish there was a way that people could get sewer that was not mandatory, but right now it hasn't been presented so far. So I'm going to stick pretty much with this.
Thank you, Commissioner Kurzman. Commissioner Tompeck?
This is really a tough issue, and I think, I know I'm struggling a little bit with the cost of this thing, and also the fact that we may not be stuck with a vacuum system, that we may go with a grinder pump system, which I don't think is out of the question. One of the things that I worry about is that the planets are aligned about as well as they're ever going to be aligned for getting this work done, in terms of the grant opportunities, in terms of the loans, and of course, what gets you to that point where you can apply for loans and apply for grants is that you show some good faith that you can get the engineering done. We're working in Fort Pierce, we're working on moving the wastewater plant off the island. It's a $100 million job. And the key issue there is to get to the 30% engineering point so you can apply for grants and apply for loans. The pressure here is much different. I certainly agree with all the town commissioners that the road project is first. at the same time, if we have some ARP funds available from the town, and we can get some matching funds from the county, isn't it in our best interest to at least push the engineering along to the point where we, can make a decision? And I think, one of the things I think has been lacking on that project is some kind of an overall, schedule, and overall, how can we figure out what Martin County utilities will do in terms of will they go with a grinder system? Because I think, that's a lot more palatable to the folks because they don't necessarily have to hook up. And, I don't think anybody here would be in favor of a vacuum system that would cost the residents $14,000, $16,000, $20,000. That's not in the cards, and that's certainly not something that anybody here would approve. But we really haven't gotten to that point. And if there is ARP money available here, I think it's worth a look here. It doesn't tie us to anything, but we certainly need to take the next step. You can't really apply for grants. You can't really apply for grants unless you show them you're serious that you'll potentially do the project. And at that point in time, if the project is at the 30% mark or the 60% mark, whatever it is, and the cost is prohibitive, we stop. We don't go down the road to put us in hock for the next 25 years. That's not going to happen. And everybody here is conservative enough to not let that happen.
Thank you, Commissioner Tompek. Commissioner Fender?
I thought you articulated that very well, but I also wanted to point out that I've been watching this project for a very long time. So, we didn't get here with a one project only mentality. We got here because once we decided we were going to do a major project like raising the road, we realized, okay, if we're going to do that, one is we want to offset the funds as much as possible with grants, and secondly, there's a whole bunch of other stuff that's going to get touched when we do it, and now's the time. Let's not go back and tear the roads up again if we have to do additional septic sewer work, utility work, undergrounding work. Just if we're going to do it, let's do it right, and also let's put ourselves in a position to reduce the cost on the burden of the taxpayer long term by positioning ourselves for grants and federal money that's going to come down the pike. So I think you're right, but also I think that there's more to it than just let's just do the road. There's, you said there's no reason to do the 30-year plan. I disagree. We have strategic initiatives that are for the betterment of the community, and we have to take those into account and strike when the iron's hot. We got the playground because the availability and the mood of the community was there to make the playground happen when it did. The same thing will be true or not true when septic sewer comes up again, or when it's time to do some level of undergrounding or community parks and things of that nature. But we have to be positioned to be able to take advantage of those at zero cost to the community through grant funding when it's available to us. So I disagree that you can do any one of these projects, a project of this magnitude, in a vacuum. So I'll leave it at that.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Fender. I want to say that, Commissioner Tompek, I agree. You worded it very well, and how I feel the costs get thrown around. I heard 30,000. I've seen 26,000. I've seen 13,000. These take a lot of things into consideration. The actual cost, yes, can be high. 20. I think we saw that in the presentation. But to Commissioner Tompek's point, we decide, listening to the residents, the commission votes, what is the tolerance. He is correct. We've said all along, every resident that would be involved with this wants to pay a reasonable price, similar to Northville's point, similar to what other communities in Martin County are paying with the grant. So that overall cost is with no grants. If you get grants, if you get money, that offsets the cost and brings it lower for the resident. And that is, I believe, what the goal would be for the town. And I believe that 250,000 in there is that the American Rescue? Town manager, and that money has restrictions. That's not available for use in a lot of things. That's not money that you can do whatever you want. And one of the things they approve of is sewer. So it seems a natural fit to Commissioner Fender's point and Commissioner Tompek. Strike while the iron is hot. It is the mood, is the atmosphere from all I know at the state level and a lot of communities that it's coming. I mean, I make no guarantees. We all see what's going on in society. You can make no guarantees about what tomorrow holds. But there's a lot of opportunity for money and grants right now, so it seems a shame to just cut that off. Commissioner Kurzman.
Yeah, the issue is really the word mandatory, and that's a big word. It means you're going to have, everybody in here is going to have to pay this, no matter what. And that's like putting a gun to somebody's head saying, you're going to do this. And I just have a hard time with that. It's something that you think about long and hard, but
Anybody said that?
I'm not going to do that. It's just, if we don't even have a cost, and that's the sad part, because you can't force somebody into something. And even if Martin County says, you know what, we'll do it, give us 300 homes, so we get 300 people to sign up in here, but nobody else is mandatory. What would that hurt? Martin County's in a winning situation. They got these hookups. As people move, people come and people go. People have the opportunity to hook up then, but they're not forced into it.
Right.
And I just have a hard time saying, you have to do this. I can't do that. I'm sorry.
Right, I understand that. And the good news is this is very preliminary, procedural, that step, and I think mandatory is a hard pill to swallow too. I think that setup in North Sewell's Point seems ideal, a grinder system. This is just the step to get the wheels in motion so we can get an accurate cost and see whether it's something that the town would tolerate. I feel like it's something that puts us on the path to explore further as opposed to making a full decision. Vice Mayor?
Yeah, I think you've got the 3 votes for the capital improvement project, and we all have, things to do. I know I've got something that I need to go to after, but I will just say that we've got 60% of the people in North Sewell's Point that haven't hooked up. We've got money for Townhall and the commercial. There's a building on the river 2 doors down that's got a 50-year-old septic tank that's right on the bank of the river. We've got $175,000 that you were very successful in getting. Why aren't we working those instead of chasing the next shiny object?
Thought we were.
So, I think you've got the votes to call the question. I think what comes out of this meeting is Sewell's Point Commission commits $2.5 million to South Sewell's Point Road septic to sewer, and, that's kind of newsworthy, but you've got the votes. Let's move on. I don't think we.
You know what? You're telling me to stop. You said it's time to call the vote, but when you say into the record, Sewell's Point commits $2.5 million to first. No, we're not. So that's why I have to say something after you say that, because we're not. This is just a capital improvement plan, a goal, and based on things that happened in the past, I don't want that to happen again, and that's why I feel the need to talk. Town Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is not a new system. This is in your charter. It is something that every year you utilize as a planning document. Sometimes the information is truly arbitrary numbers that get placed in when in years past when you had no idea how you were going to get $3 to $4 million per project with just the hopes of grants. A document like this was made for you. This is a hyperview of the work that you have, as a commission, have been doing since January to prioritize your long-term planning. And that's a $60 million nest egg, if you will, that you want to save for, that you know is unrealistic to do in a 5-year period. This is a snapshot of what the potential 5-year period could be. Again, I'm sure each one of you know about the new state section 380.093 that says that each municipality will fall in line with climate change issues, and you will highlight, outline, and prioritize all of your capital improvement projects that have resiliency components with them. Septic to sewer is considered a resiliency component. Your state and federal monies that are available for incentives right now, which is what Commissioner Tompeck was speaking to. To have a document that shows this, that you are part of the planning process, which you agreed as far as with the blueprint that was important to you, shows that you recognize it as a resiliency project and shows that you're open and ready, shovel ready for grants once the planning is done.
You're shovel ready? We don't have to even ask
Enough.
any
No.
of the residents.
No. Please
We're
don't.
talking about the residents.
Please
not
don't.
just 5
Please
people.
don't.
I really want her to hear my answer.
Okay.
So the planning makes it shovel ready. We're not shovel ready now for any of this money that's out there.
Right.
So in order for that to be possible, we have to get to the planning portion. You have $1 million that has been associated for Town of Sewell's Point from the American Rescue Act plan. And specifically, we've been talking about utilizing that for the planning purposes. And that's why it's on this list. It does not compel you, it does not mandate that you spend $2.4 million or $2.5 million on septic sewer, but it certainly gets you in the position where you get the real information and not the rumors of what it will cost, exactly what type of methodology you will choose to use. And at this point in time, based on the pushback that we've been receiving from Commissioner Tompeck, and that I've been able to share with those at Martin County Utilities and also at the City of Stewart, we are now looking at the potential for grinder system as an option to reduce the cost. So there are options out there, not ready to be brought to you, but certainly if you eliminate that from your capital improvement project, that you are at least 5 years behind.
Thank you, Town Manager. Commissioner Fender?
Yeah, and I wanted to clarify because it went by really, really quickly at the beginning of this meeting. And so I thought for some of the residents who are still here that and also I think Vice Mayor understands this, but I moved Resolution 924 to the beginning of this discussion, and it somehow passed without any discussion at all. But the wording of that resolution is important. It allocated whatever we increased as a millage rate increase, the 0.4 mills that are going up, dedicated solely to capital projects, not going to salaries, not going to town hall issues, and also guaranteeing that it sunsets by 2036. That said, we may find that we don't need 0.4 mills for this project. We may not take the full amount of that debt. So our budgets are going to look a little better, and we may not get the impact we think on the full effect of taxpayer dollars on that 0.4 mills. But the point is, that money's not going anywhere except for South Sills Point Road, and if you choose some other project that there's some width to handle in order to better the property values of the town and reduce our tax base long-term, to me, that's what that little activity was. And since you passed it unanimously, and I'm appreciative, I realize that the vote for an increased millage rate is going directly solely to these capital projects, to the extent we decide as a team and subsequent commissions decide where those capital project funds should be directed.
At least for the first year, it's solely going to the South Sills Point Road project,
Yes.
not anything else.
Absolutely.
Yes, that's a good point. Thank you. All right, Town Clerk, will you please call the vote? Oh, I need that, don't I? All right, could I please get a motion to approve the 5-year capital improvement plan?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
All right, I'll second that, since it's a capital improvement plan, and I'm all for capital improvement.
Thank you, Commissioner Fender. All right, Town Clerk, will you please call the vote?
Commissioner Fender?
Aye.
Commissioner Kurzman?
No.
Commissioner Tompak?
Yes.
Mayor Mayfield?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Campos?
Nay.
All right, moving on to the last item of the meat of this meeting. Resolution number 923, adopting the annual salary and benefits plan for fiscal year 2021-2022. Town Clerk, would you please read the title?
A resolution of the Town Commission of the Town of Sewell's Point, Florida, adopting the annual salary and benefits plan and providing for an effective date and other purposes.
Thank you. That's a short one. Any discussion amongst the commission on this? Vice Mayor Campo.
Yeah, so I'm going to refer you to your books, tab G. It's hard to say. Okay, page 39.
I don't have a page number on my, show me what this is like.
Bottom right says page 39. And if the town manager could go to the website of the Sewell's Point, go to our landing page. If not, I'll just, apparently from the information, when we compare the salary, town hall positions, classifications, and salary ranges, and I'm just pointing out information,
Okay.
okay? So, I don't know if we could freeze frame that, or if you could go to, we've all got that in front of us, Town Manager. If you could go to our website, and you go to the compensation plan, I've got both side by side, right there. You can kind of eyeball it, but just an observation. The town manager, and I don't know where this information is from, it's what we're going to be relying upon, I guess, in the future when we do talk about renewing a contract, but the town manager, police chief, finance director, building official, we got low, medium, and high. The low, medium, and high on what you're looking at on your screen is what was last year. Well, what we were given this year is now the top, nope, well, stick to one. Okay, let's stick to this one. Okay, so 1 year ago, the low from town manager is 100. It's now still 100. But the mid went to 125 and the high went to 150. So if you go down the line of positions, you'll see that the mid and high ranges for town manager, the high range went up 25%. Police chief only 8%, finance director only 8%, building official only 8%, town assistant, town clerk, police assistant, public works, no change. And I just thought in 1 year that was a remarkable jump in salaries that are being offered town managers. That's just something that I find difficult to really grasp without any context. I just thought it was worth mentioning since those items were just 1 year ago. And with that, I'm ready to, call the question or at your leisure. And
Commissioner Tompeck.
Yeah, I was just curious, last week, Town Manager, when we met, we talked a little bit about the compensation increases that you were looking at, and in general, I know, at least I think I know that we don't have a compensation consultant here, so I was trying to figure out how you came up with, I don't think I have a problem with the number, the 5% number that we discussed, but I was trying to understand how you necessarily came up with that number.
I think that's a good question. You're right. There is typically, if you watch the Board of County Commissioner meeting from Martin County recently, I think that was in the last 2 weeks, they had their Human Resource Department along with their deputy administrator do a full-on presentation for market analysis. And in that market analysis, they were able to show you similar positions within the different agencies, and they were speaking on behalf of, at this particular time, the administrator for the commission and the the county attorney. And so based on the information they provided through their extensive market research, they determined that they were underpaid, and so they gave them an increase. And that's normally how a presentation would work. So this town doesn't have a human resource department, and it also doesn't have the money for a consultant to go out. So my point of view was, let me try and get as much information for you as possible. And so in your backup information here, I had hoped to answer that, and basically saying, although it's not, a human resource department that is bringing this to you, usually a department of 8 or so, this is the information I could pull together for you. And if, again, if reading the backup information, you will see that this is in line with our policy manual and our charter. And again, I would refer you back to the town manager contract that really speaks to the fact that that is supposed to be a separate discussion from this. Why? Because it becomes so polarizing, as you can see, it very easily can become. So from a perspective of the other individuals, most municipalities do not put out one line item of a person's salary, of a department's salary when it's one person, because you're really just putting out one person's salary. And so we are trying to take the brand new software that we have that is purposeful and by design for municipalities. That is why portions are different and not laying out one at a time salaries, but departmentalized. So market analysis here, Exhibit A, and then the staff budget compensation, Exhibit B, and then the positions of Exhibit C. So let's take a look at those. As we go through the market analysis, we talk about how many full-time equivalents we have within the town. We also, I think we tend to forget that since my employment, we reduced the amount of full-time equivalents that are on the administrative side. So it's a different team, and it's a much more efficient team, and it's a team you should be proud of. And when you take a look at the median average number of, the median number of residents per municipal employee, we exceed that median number comparatively when you take a look at our information, 129 versus 117. So in this information, what I'm trying to show you is that we have a reduced level of service compared to the median average, which means 50% are over and 50% are under throughout the state of Florida. But this appropriate level of service is deemed appropriate by the commission. For employees per resident, it's a policy decision governed by this commission. That's how that comes up. I gave you backup information about how police services are provided. Beyond that, we went into the building department. I'm sure each of you know the state statutes that go along with the building department. It's run almost like an enterprise fund. Money that comes in goes out for building department purposes. When you take a look at your building official and the market survey, here's what we pay the building official. Here's what others pay. The average is 114. We talked about the clerk's information that we found out from the League of Cities. And then I gave you another exhibit which spoke to the annual position of the clerk and the annual position of the finance director. And for this particular chart, I asked the Florida League of Cities to stay with small populations. Don't give me anything that doesn't seem relevant. Stay small. So I asked for under 10,000. You see that we go from towns and cities from 139 in their population to just under 9,000. Then as we pull it down, it gives you the total, the average, and the median. You can compare those to what we pay our clerk and our building official and our finance director, should you want that information. It is not my best practice, and shouldn't be yours, to just put line items of people with names as to what they make. When I first started here, we had conversations about that. And I would say, short of Mr. Tompeck, I've had that conversation with each of you about the difficulties that presents when residents can come in and say, Sue Jones makes this much money, and I think that's too much. And government employees don't need to get beat up over a salary that's predetermined by a classification in market surveys throughout the entire state. Nobody's going to get rich being a public servant. You know what I mean? And you certainly don't want a team that gets demotivated because people are after them. And I've shared stories with you about what that looks like. So if that part of the budget seemed different to you, certainly I would say I think it's in line with municipalities, and that particular detail is for the best interest and protection and safety of our public employees during what I would consider to be a hostile year for government, and can be very polarizing. But if anybody would like to know those salaries, because curious minds like to know, always available for public record requests. Let me keep going. We have the incredible information from 2019 that was provided by your chief of police during those meetings. I solely provided it to you again because it's in alignment with the information we received from 2019, and Mr. Tompeck did not have the liberty of seeing it at that time since he is newer to the board. And then you have the staff budget compensation plan. What's important to me on this page is that we identify, again, for the second year in a row, command staff. Why do we identify command staff and why is it important? Because we need 3 leaders for the shifts that we have for our police department. That's also a very important part of discussion right now with those that want to convert our police department that is independent, as far as I understand, happy, to potentially a unionized department. This portion is important to show over and over again. Town hall classifications and salary ranges, you don't have to accept them. If you want to put a line through and make changes, you can. The classifications show basically where they fall in the organizational chart. The low, mid, and high are reflective of the salary survey information that has been provided as of this last 2 months. If this looks different, it's because it is. It's based on the information that we received and that I added to it. You can choose to accept it, you can choose to not accept it. The sworn officer step plan is outlined, and it's a predetermined plan that was approved in 2019 with a 10% increase across the board in 2019 for all officers, including those that are command staff. The board at that time gave a 10% increase across the board. Outside of that, they have 2.5% step increases and annually 5% increase. For the year of COVID, you had a town hall that was available, offered continuity of services, even when we had people out, worked remotely very little, and to be quite frank, I thought was a fantastic year, and the people that worked here should have gotten a lot of applause for the amount of work they did. Regardless of if you like people that work for government or don't work for government. I've worked private sector most of my life, and I got to tell you, the productivity that comes out of this office, including the police side, is unbelievable. And the employees this year are receiving a 5% increase. That's not counting the $1,000 per officer that the governor has decided to give. I don't think that that's out of line. I gave you the information about the surveys. I can get you more information. At some point in time, if you would like to hire a consultant to give you the same information, feel free. But I really would say to you, this is a reflection of the trust that you have in the information provided by the hired staff. And I'm not coming to you as somebody who just collects information. Again, I don't have a need to qualify my skill level to you. You either accept it or you don't. This is the information I'm providing for you after a lot of research. It is verified by my finance officer, and I compared it to other municipalities, and I'm constantly talking to the other town managers and city managers, not just locally, but I participate in a think tank, and I'm also in a leadership group within ICMA. So I provide this information to you as objectively as possible. And to be very clear, that high point there is not just for the people that are here, it's about what the role is worth. This is not about the people, it's about what the role is worth. And that is the high end. And to speak to the elephant in the room, you all know I'm not asking you for doubling my salary. You know that that's not the case. And you know, too, that I'm not asking you for $150,000 in my salary, annual salary. So people like to spread rumors. We're going to be discussing that in the next week and a half, or at the next commission meeting. And the idea behind previous people to me in your legal department, and I'm guessing most of the commission that was sitting up here that created a contract that says we don't talk about it during these meetings, is not to create the polarization when it's a business meeting. This is your business meeting. You don't like that? We're here to please you. We will change it, and it will affect your ability to retain your employees and your ability to recruit new employees.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I don't see any discussion, so I would look for a motion to approve resolution number 923.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you. Looking for a second.
I'll second.
Thank you. I see no more discussion. Town clerk, will you please call the vote?
Commissioner Person,
Yes.
Commissioner Hopland,
Yes.
Mayor Mayfield,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Campbell,
Nay.
Commissioner Fender.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. That moves us to commission and staff closing comments. Any staff comments, Town Manager?
I'm looking at my staff. Any updates anybody wants to give? No, I would say to you, it's my pleasure to give you this information. Certainly, we were ready to start doing math in case there wasn't a 4-to-1 vote on the millage rate. We were up in the air on where it was going to go. So it was quite the risk to bring you one budget without having, a lot in reserves. I'm proud of the work that this team does. I'm proud of the work that we're able to do with this budget, and I commend you for making the hard decision. That is absolutely an investment in this town, and making sure that you are allocating the money specifically for that investment so that you can measure your success. So congratulations.
Thank you. Any commissioner comments? All right, seeing none, can I please get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Meeting adjourned.